Green Bay. And if you don't believe the hype, like Aaron Rodgers cautions you not to, let's just look at their record, folks. The Packers are 4-5, third in the NFC North, coming off 3 straight losses to the Falcons, the Colts, and the Titans. Sunday, they have a tough test in our nation's capital. Stephen A., which Rodgers shows up?
You know what? I think the bad man that he is, I believe in Aaron Rodgers. I believe he's a superstar. I believe he's going to show up. And I think that if he doesn't, it's going to be the ultimate indictment against him, because I think it's time for us to sit up here and recognize what has transpired. You know, we talk about a guy in Coach Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, I think, has guided the Green Bay Packers, to the playoffs like 7 straight years. This man, he's guided them to the playoffs in 7 straight years. They've won a Super Bowl title. You can't question the man's credentials in terms of what they've done in Green Bay. They've won more games with him than they did with Vince Lombardi, for crying out loud. But at the same time, there does come a point in time, Max, where your voice becomes tired. People don't want to hear it. It's one of those situations where you start getting to that point where people are wondering whether a new voice is needed. And it especially elevates exponentially when you consider the fact that you have the greatness of a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers and you don't feel like it's being maximized. There are very rare situations, Max, where the standard that exists in Green Bay exists, period. Pittsburgh, Green Bay, once upon a time, Dallas and San Francisco. You get the playoff victories, that's fine. But it's about Super Bowls. Brett Favre delivered the Super Bowl, but 2 Super Bowl appearances. Aaron Rodgers delivered the Super Bowl, but hasn't been back to the Super Bowl since. There was a divisional playoff loss after they won that Super Bowl as the 6th seed in 2010. There was a collapse against Seattle that ultimately followed. There's been 6 full seasons where there's been no Aaron Rodgers in Super Bowl mentioned.
For the touchdown! And good night, Irene. The Dallas.
You're not going to question the talent when the talent still exists in the greatness of an Aaron Rodgers. You're going to question the coach. So I think saying all of that, Sunday's game in D.C. is pivotal. Because if Aaron Rodgers doesn't show up and play big time after they won that Super Bowl as the 6th seed in 2010, there was a collapse week with Green Bay against Tennessee, especially if that defense stinks up the joint again. I think that seat, that hot seat that Mike McCarthy may be on from that fan base in Green Bay is going to intensify greatly. And I think Aaron Rodgers knows it. I think he steps up. He responds to the challenge. I think the rest of the team does so as well. And they beat Washington at FedEx Field, because if they don't, Mike McCarthy, life's going to get very, very uncomfortable for this man.
The question is, which Aaron Rodgers shows up against Washington this Sunday? And I agree, it's going to be the very good version of Aaron Rodgers. But the very good version of Aaron Rodgers this year is not quite the very great version of several years ago. You know, there was a time, not that long ago, not this season or last, but not that long ago, where I felt Aaron Rodgers was making his case as the greatest quarterback who ever lived. I'm not saying he would have won the case, but he was forcing himself into that conversation. And part of that is because based on his age and his team and his coach, we assumed some things about the trajectory of his career, that it was going to have a long prime, right? Because he got great, even though he sat behind Brett Favre for a while, he got great right away. And wow, look at this guy, the multifaceted game he has. That's going to age well. But that hasn't been the case over the last couple of years. And I suspect what's going on with Rodgers, it's not just the pieces around him. I suspect what's going on is something we see sometimes with pitchers in Major League Baseball. They have a prime, then they dip down for a couple of years, and you think maybe it's over for them. And then the really great ones, the Hall of Famers, seem to have a second prime. And what goes on during those years where they dip is sometimes injury, but oftentimes there's a little something off their fastball now. It's imperceptible even to them, but they're not quite as dominant as they once were, and yet they're approaching everything the same way. And until they learn to adjust to their new physical reality, they take that little dip, and once they learn to adjust, they can kind of mimic the success they had in their prime as a slightly different kind of player. I suspect that's what's happening with Rodgers right now. That said, for all the sky is falling Chicken Little talk about him, he has 22 touchdowns against 7 interceptions this year. Whatever you want to say about their record, Molly, they're a game out of first. You know, they have one game worse than the division leaders. So, and it's not an exceptionally strong division. Aaron Rodgers has the 6th best QBR in the NFL. I mean, for any other quarterback, be like having a fantastic season. Still, only 5 quarterbacks having a better season, and every single one of them is in the MVP conversation. So,
let me tell you something.
What Rodgers is going to show up against Washington?
Hello, let me answer all those numbers you threw out there. Let me answer that. Yeah, let me answer that because I'm damn near lost with what you're saying.
When you talk for 5 minutes, do I jump in? Go ahead.
I don't throw numbers at everybody. They ain't math class. I mean, we ain't in Columbia or Princeton. A brother needs some help. I'm saying a brother needs some help. I don't quite comprehend what you're saying.
Go ahead, my brother. Take all the help you want.
Let me just. All I'm saying is this.
Is in the end.
With all that you just said, you realize, Max Kellerman, that Aaron Rodgers only has 2 300-yard games this year? 2.
Yeah.
See how simple that math is? Far less complicated than what you would say. 2 300-yard
touchdowns and
interceptions. Aaron Rodgers, 2.
Right. But you know what's happening, Stephen A?
Games.
You know what's happening?
What?
When he is under pressure, which he's under much more often than not, like every other quarterback. You know, when he gets sacked a lot, he's not really good. Yeah, that's what happens to everyone when they get sacked a lot. So the question in this game, what Aaron Rodgers is going to show up, which one? How much do you have faith? How much faith do you have in the Washington team being able to get pressure on Rodgers? They don't have a special ability in that department. Even going into the season, they really needed to beef up the defensive line, and instead they spent the money in the secondary on Josh Norman. So they've actually exceeded expectations in that department a little bit in terms of their ability to pressure the quarterback, because they're about average. So can an average team in that department create enough pressure on Rodgers that it brings him from still an elite quarterback, if not the best at this moment, to a bad quarterback? No, I don't think so. I don't think Washington is the team to do that, and I expect the bad man, as you say, to show up.
Well, he's a bad boy, and I think that, like you said, that second level where you can resurrect yourself, because I don't see I don't see diminished ability in Aaron Rodgers. I don't see less arm strength. I don't see less of a motor. What I see is less accuracy. I see a guy that doesn't have his ultimate weapon in Jordy Nelson being the Jordy Nelson we once knew from 2 years ago. I think as a result, Jordy Nelson, he's trying to help Jordy Nelson, compensate for whatever deficiencies he may have still coming off of that injury, because I think Jordy Nelson will be even better next year than he is right now, because I think he's still recovering from that injury he suffered last year. Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, others got to step up. Eddie Lacy been up and down health-wise. I think those things have factored into the equation. But I've also seen Aaron Rodgers miss throws he would normally make. But again, the arm strength is still there. The ability is still there. The motor is still there. I just see a guy, to me, that for some reason the timing has lost. And I think that's something he could get back. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if it came back this weekend, even against Breland, Norman, and those boys.
And even everything that you just said, and we know he's fallen off the last couple of years, all that's true. He is still capable, Aaron Rodgers, of playing on a higher level than everyone else. Think about the comeback against Arizona. Ultimately, they lost in overtime. Aaron Rodgers needed to throw a touchdown to win. Scrambled out, avoided pressure with his legs, kept his eyes down the field. Amazing, as usual, his escapability, as they say, and threw, a 60-yard Hail Mary down the field? But you can't really call it a Hail Mary because he threw it where only the offensive player had a chance at the ball. And then they called it back. And then he did it again on the next play, bringing that team to overtime. No one can do it like that except for Aaron Rodgers. And we saw it as recently as the last playoff game he played at the end of last season. It's still in there somewhere. So I expect him to ball against Washington.
All right, well, forget the struggles on the field. We had Randall Cobb with an indirect message to Rodgers saying we need to stop pointing fingers at each other, keeping things in-house, keep it tighter, and stick together. We'll see if they can get it done. Sunday Night Football, Washington favored by 3. But coming up next, Cam Newton put the NFL on notice when he made these comments about questionable hits he was taking.
It's not fun. It's not fun. It's really taking the fun out of the game for me, honestly. It really is, because at times, I don't even feel safe.
Michael Vick joins the show to talk Cam, and you do not want to miss how he feels about Cam's treatment on the field. And scary moment for Luke Kuechly. Leaves last night's win after a big hit and is very emotional as he's carted off the field. With concussions a growing issue, how much trouble is in store for this team and the NFL? We talk about it next.
What's going on? This is Kevin Hart, a.k.a. Long-Faced Little Body. And right now, you're watching my favorite show. I'm talking about First Take, without Stephen A. Smith.
Crushing blow for Luke Kuechly and the Panthers in their 3-point win over the Saints. The three-time Pro Bowler was hit in the face mask while trying to tackle Saints running back Tim Hightower in the fourth. Kuechly was sobbing, both as he sat on the field and was carted off of it. The Panthers later said he was being evaluated for a concussion. Here's his teammate Greg Olsen after the game.
I just hope he's okay, more than anything, regardless of when he comes back. If any of that, it's out the window. You just hope he's all right. It's a tough game sometimes. And those are the real ugly parts of it, of course. So just hope he's all right.
Feel terrible for him. Kuechly missed 3 games last season due to a concussion, so this got us thinking about earlier in the week when Dr. James Andrews was quoted by Sports Illustrated. Now listen to this. He said, "It's a collision sport. If we started a new sport today and we wrote up the rules and regulations and we called it football, they probably wouldn't allow it. We're all trying to do everything we can to make football safer, but that's the way the sport is. There's always going to be injuries. We're aware of that, and we're all working to keep it that way. We want it to continue, believe me." On a happier note, it's so good to have Damian Woody here.
Hey.
I was so happy. See, people don't realize I actually like having Stephen A. and Max around, but this is an upgrade, my friend. I want to start with you. How much trouble...
I remember you said that.
There he is.
By the way, having Damian there is like having Stephen A. and Max around.
Oh, they're unbelievable. They're unbelievable. It's not that funny. Oh, it's not that good. Damian,
Max, that was
let's just
low.
focus on each other.
Max.
Let's forget those two annoying cats right there. How much trouble is the NFL in?
Listen, I think the NFL is definitely in trouble because I think when you talk about the NFL, they're in a delicate balancing act right now. Listen, I think Dr. Andrews was absolutely correct. It is a collision sport. There's nothing that you can do about that. You're talking about guys who are getting bigger, faster, and stronger seemingly every year, but the field size is still the same. So these collisions that guys are seeing, that we're seeing on television, these are violent collisions. But here's another component that the NFL is juggling right now. The product on the field isn't good, and the reason the product on the field isn't good is because of what's happening because of the CBA. Guys are practicing less, collisions are happening less, and one thing about football, a collision sport, you need to be in pads. I remember my coach Rob Marinelli used to tell me, you have to harden your body to get ready for a rigorous 16-game season, and because of the CBA, they've pulled that back, and a lot of these guys, a lot of positions in football are not up to snuff where they used to be.
To take that pounding.
So you're seeing the product becoming watered down, which the interest of the National Football League has come down. You can see that in the ratings. So the NFL right now is in a situation where you're saying, okay, there's nothing we can do about, that we're playing a collision sport, but also we got to do something about the ratings. We got to be able to somehow get the product to where it needs to be, where people are interested in our sport at the levels that we need to be at.
Yeah, and it seems like a myriad of factors are impacting that. Stephen A.
It's kind of crazy because here's the thing. I think that America loves violent sports. I think we love high-end competition. I think the problem with the NFL ratings is the fact that the product is diluted. And I think it is in large part to Thursday night football combined with the practices or lack thereof, as Damian Woody accurately pointed out. You've got repetition, redundancy, all of those different things play a role into you adapting to certain circumstances and being in peak condition. At least that's what I was told, because I certainly never tried to play football. But at the same breath, I think it's important to point out that while we sit up there and we highlight that reality, let's make sure that we recognize that people love that high-end competition. They love seeing people perform at an elite level. And a lot of times I think that, to me, Damian, and I don't know how far-fetched this may be, help me out here, but I'm of the mindset that Players in the league today need to understand and appreciate the level of sensitivity the leagues and the doctors have to the safety issue. This is a real deal. Even when guys get hit in the chest, when they go down and their head bangs against that turf, it's really problematic. And so, again, to sit up there and insist on avoiding headshots while at the same time not feeling the need to go so low where you're damn near crippling folks every chance you get. I mean, what's wrong with going out there and understanding below the head, above the knees, try at every turn as a collective unit of NFL players to do that instead of trying to knock people unconscious sometimes because you're recognizing the level of damage that can be done to the sport by continuously. I know it may be unreasonable, but I guess what I'm asking is that something a player should be thinking about? I'm just wondering, Max and Damian. I'm just wondering.
Well, listen, I feel like, first of all, there's a level of hypocrisy with the league because you talk about player safety, and like you alluded to, we're playing you're playing Thursday night games. You're not even giving your body enough time to really heal from the games that you're playing on Sunday. So, when you say, guys got to appreciate what the league and the medical departments are doing. They're also looking like, dude, we're playing Thursday night games. We shouldn't be playing these.
And I've always been against Thursday night games.
Right,
Max
we
is
should
for
not.
it.
I don't think it's about. Look, I don't think it's about Thursday night games other than the health issue. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. What's the biggest problem facing the NFL? And I said at the time, and I maintain today, it's the effects of the violence of the sport. It's an intrinsically violent sport. That's what it is. And take it from someone who's a big boxing fan and saw boxing marginalized. But the more violent the sport, the harder it's going to be over the long term to remain in the mainstream. Forces push it to the margins in a hopefully civilizing society because of the dangers it presents. You could point to the UFC. Hey, that's fast growing. An interesting thing there is because the UFC, because in MMA you can follow up on an advantage, you can end the contest early. It's not like in boxing where a guy gets knocked down, gets up, standing 8 count. Hey, I know you have a concussion. Let this other guy hit you in the brain a little bit more. Or in the NFL, oh, you got a stinger? That means you can't feel your extremities? Shake it off and get back in there. That ongoing punishment, once you've been concussed, once you've been altered physically in that way, damaged in that way, leads to lasting effects that are not good. And that is the problem the NFL faces. You can try to make it as safe as possible within the context of the violent sport that it is. And consenting adults in America should be able to do whatever they want to each other, including play football. But that's what they're dealing with. It is violent. It has bad consequences physically. And I think that will ultimately continue to push football to the margins, although it occupies center stage right now.
Well, listen, I know I'll just take, myself, for example. When I came into the National Football League, I wasn't oblivious to, the sport that I was playing. I knew I was playing a contact sport. And when you're out there on the football field and you're having 60, 65, 70 plays where your head is constantly bashing, you have to know, or I knew for myself, that there could possibly be some residual effects down the road. But it's all about, how do I want to, do I really care about what happens later, or I have an opportunity to change a generational cycle? I think a lot of guys, when you look at coming into the National Football League, coming from underprivileged background, where they have an opportunity, a lot of money to be able to do a lot of really good things for their family. So they're really weighing, okay, I understand it's a contact sport. I understand things could happen down the road, but I have an opportunity right now to really change things right now for my family. I know for myself and a lot of people that played in the National Football League, they weighed those options.
Damian, if you could have played basketball, if you could have played in the NBA and had as long a career as you did in the NFL at the same level of player that you were, which would you have chosen?
Well, I mean, Max, come on, that's common sense. Obviously, I would have played basketball, but I'm not.
Talk to any football player, you get the same answer. Like 9 out of 10 will tell you, if you can play in the NBA, you do. And it points out the exploitative nature, Stephen A. Smith, of a sport like football to the players. Although I enjoy it and love it, and they benefit from it in many ways, it is fundamentally, when you talk about violent sports, they're exploitative of the participants.
Let's not come across like choir boys here when we talk about exploitative nature of the NFL. The NFL is trying to get paid. So is everybody else. And if you find that you have something that's marketable to the masses that can generate an exorbitant amount of revenue, it is something you're usually going to do. Of course, football players would choose basketball because it's safer and the contracts are guaranteed. There's more money. But at the same time, their gift is their gift. And if they have a gift for football more so than basketball, and they have an opportunity to make that kind of paper, and you have an exorbitant amount of individuals who recognize the violence that exists in the sport, is clearly willing to take the chance, and you always have folks lined up willing to play, I don't think the NFL is in trouble in that regard. I think where the NFL comes into play in terms of being in trouble is when the product is diluted and we're looking at a subpar product for whatever reason. As long as the product that's being put out there for the masses is of a high-end value, regardless of what's happening, I think the public is still going to support it. I think you jeopardize it most once the product is compromised.
When mothers see Luke Kuechly, one of the best players in the NFL, period, in the middle of every play, getting taken off the field like a little boy, he can't catch his breath. It's like, what, does he have a punctured lung? What is it? And he's like, oh, it looks like he's in a state of shock. They don't want their kids to play football.
I know plenty of mamas who feel that way, and their son becomes 17, 18 years old, et cetera, and they have an opportunity to get a free college education, and they have an opportunity to make millions of dollars playing football as opposed to working a 9 to 5, and they say, Mama, I love you dearly, but I need your love and support here because this is what I'm going to do, and the mama capitulates. We see that all the time. Stop it.
Yep. We got to leave it there. Let's not forget Saints running back Mark Ingram also left that game being evaluated for a concussion. Always appreciate your perspective and your company today. But unfortunately, you have to leave us. Damian, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Coming up next, it's been a roller coaster rookie campaign for Carson Wentz. So will Philly's young QB sink or swim in Seattle on Sunday? That is coming up next. And it's a...
Plus, I know Stephen A. living kids. LeBron James is missing games already. It's the beginning of the season. Come on. People are paying way too much money for this guy to sit on the bench and suck down unnecessary electrolytes.
I'm sorry, my friend. I got to give you a resounding, come on, man. You said that LeBron needs his rest because it might be detrimental to their championship run. Well, they're 11 games in, my friend. You got to play those games. If you're going to rest at home. Rest against the Sixers.
Show me some respect as the competition, as the fans on the road, as Stephen A. mentioned, that I paid my good hard-earned money to come out and see you. And if you're healthy, give me the respect of at least gracing the floor.
Oh, I just wanted, can you guys guess which one I loved?
Well, you talk about Malcolm X. You like Malcolm X, the last one right there?
I want to see the baby again. That was so cute.
You can't have the baby on camera. You can't do that. Listen, I appreciate the innovativeness, but we're not about bringing children to work. When you come up on set, you're going to have to stand by yourself.
I love the baby.
You can't have a kid with you. No. Not feeling that. Not feeling that.
All right.
I'm with you on that one, Molly.
We love it.
So...
See, Max and Molly love the kids, not Stevie A. Let's move on, folks. I thought they were all great. We appreciate them. Contest is coming up shortly, so we're looking forward to that. But meanwhile, there is another incredibly tough contest this weekend for the #2 overall pick in the draft, Carson Wentz, as he goes up against the Seahawks. Remember, Pennsylvania? He started off the season on fire, leading the team to a 3-0 start. But since they faltered, going 2-4, let's take a look now at just how up and down his season has been. His average total QBR through the first 3 games was a solid 63, then a significant drop-off in weeks 4 through 7, followed by a decent recovery in the last 3 games. Stephen A., you know this city very well. How important is this Seahawks matchup for Mr. Wentz?
Believe it or not, it's not that important. A matter of fact, a legitimate argument should be made that this is a game he shouldn't even play. They should consider it start Chase Daniels for crying out loud. Why can you sit up there and put him through that kind of stuff going on right now? How could you do that to him? Because here's the reality. When you think about Carson Wentz, here's what's going on. You've got Jordan Matthews, whose back is messed up. You got Zach Ertz with the bulky hamstring. You've got Aguilar, who hasn't had a 50-plus yard receiving game since the opening against the hapless Cleveland Browns. You've got Dorial Green, Beckham, who wasn't even targeted last year. You have no wideouts to speak of, and you have a running game which is suspect at times going up against Seattle. This is a doomsday scenario for the Philadelphia Eagles, who are on the road. This is not at home at Lincoln Financial Field. This is a bad, bad day. This is one of them games that I would actually think about taking Carson Wentz out early, because he may very well end up getting himself hurt in this particular game, with Cam Chancellor being out, with Earl Thomas having done what he did to Gronkowski, with Tom Brady wincing because of the hit Cam Chancellor put on him. I mean, this Seattle defense is returning back to the elite kind of form we saw a couple of years ago. I'm worried about Carson Wentz so much in this game. I don't think it's a big game for him at all. We should expect him to lose. We should expect him to get beat up. And we should pray that Doug Peterson gets him the hell out of there early before he gets himself hurt in this particular game. A game in which, by the way, I think the Eagles have little to no chance of winning.
Stephen A. Smith, today you are the broken clock. You are right, finally, on a subject today. It is not that this is a big game for Carson Wentz. It's that this is a big game for the perception of Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, just use, here's the eyeball test you always want me to use, Stephen A. Smith. He's good. He's good, just like Dak Prescott. You could tell early on, boy, that's a good quarterback. Carson Wentz, same thing. You look at it, well, that's a good quarterback. You can see it. He can play. And when Lane Johnson was in, when his offensive line was better, QBR was 70, and he was bowling. And then he loses some protection, and all of a sudden, he's not that good anymore. So the perception will be, if Seattle really beats him up and wins, as you mentioned, at home, that he's, what's going on with Carson Wentz, and they'll be talking about it, and we'll be talking about it on TV, and it'll be in the papers and online, and whispers, maybe he's not as good as we thought. Boy, Dak is really the guy you want. No, it's the situation he's in. Carson Wentz, if he stays healthy, looks like he's going to be a really good quarterback for a really long time. That's what it looks like to me. And I don't think you can base anything on the Seahawks game. That said, they have chances to win this game. One of the problems with Chip Kelly in San Francisco this year is if you have a talent gap, if you're worse than the other team, you want lower possession games. You want fewer possessions in the game. Because the more possessions there are, the more action there is back and forth, the wider the score will tend to become in the other team's favor. They're better than you. When they're
who played against Buffalo a couple of weeks ago on a Monday night, had to fly across the country to go up against the New England Patriots the very next weekend on a Sunday night, and now are back in Seattle for this game. Either they're tired or they were just disinterested in playing. But if they have any interest in playing whatsoever, Carson Wentz may not survive this damn game because he has no weapons to speak of, because none of his weapons are out there healthy. I'm very, very worried about him for this game, and I think the Eagles should be as well.
All right, well, if Wentz can go up to Seattle and he can get a win and deal with those 12's huge statement game, especially after Seattle just went to Foxborough and beat the Patriots, so we shall see. But coming up next, we have a special guest joining First Take. There he is. See, he knows about winners with the Cubs hat right there. Mike Vick. We will talk to him shortly. Stay with us here and stay tuned as we talk Michael Jordan and Russell Westbrook. His airness praises the OKC star, but he was actually taking a shot at the former Thunder star Kevin Durant. We asked that. Don't miss it. Coming up next.
What's up, guys? This is Tim Tebow. You're watching First Take on ESPN 2.
Flushed out, and he is loose again. Midfield. Vic. He's made go. He will. Touchdown, Michael Vick.
The position is ready to transform. Everyone says it's a quarterback league, but this is different. This is somebody doing something even more dynamic, more explosive. I don't know if I've ever seen like it.
And there is Vic, as you talked about, John, rolling and launching downfield for the shot. Jackson, who accelerates, caught the opening play, and all the way for a touchdown.
Wow. I don't know how you stop this guy.
Now that's a highlight reel. Our next guest was the #1 overall pick in the 2001 NFL Draft and immediately transformed the position of quarterback. You just saw it, a 4-time Pro Bowler and the NFL's all-time leader in rushing yards for a quarterback. We welcome Mike Vick to First Take. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Mike,
Thanks for having me. I appreciate all y'all.
Mike, I want to start with Cam here. Now, obviously, you're no stranger to punishment, of course, being a mobile quarterback. What are your thoughts on him complaining about those hits that he's taking?
Well, look, we all understand where Cam's coming from. You're going to get hit low. Guys are going to take shots. They're gunning at you. From what happened last year and what transpired throughout their season, all the fun they was having, a lot of guys, may be a little, upset about that, and they want to take their shots, and they're going to try to get their shots. That's just the nature of the NFL, and I think, Cam just has to roll with the punches, man. You can't really complain about it. You can't get upset. The one thing I learned, the more you complain, the more the refs are going to ignore you, when you're in their ear trying to get a call. They act as if they don't hear you. So he just has to play ball and not, depend on the refs to get a call, because you may get one in the game, and that's it. And you have to continue to play.
Mike, what role do you believe Cam has played in seemingly being targeted more? Guys going to want to hit you regardless. But do you think whether it's the dabbing, it's the celebrations, it's the talking that they did last year in the throws of that 15 in one season, that there's still residue from that has players targeting him even more?
Like I said, when you look at all the showboating last year, the guys, they were having fun, and that's what the NFL season's supposed to consist of. When guys out there building chemistry, the camaraderie, having fun playing the game. But when you take it upon yourself or your teammates to, showboat and throw that in everybody's face, some guys are not going to like that. And you have to understand, if you're a Super Bowl contending team, if you made it to the Super Bowl and you didn't win it, everybody know the next year that you're going to be a tough competitor. You're going to be a tough team, and you have to, just be ready for whatever is going to come. And right now, it's just a little backlash from that, from all the dabbing, all the showboating, all the celebrating, and it's just something that Cam has to deal with. He's done a great job so far. I think the team is a step behind from what happened last year. They're not looking as good as they did last year, but they're slowly but surely getting on track, and I think that's all you can ask for. But as of right now, those calls may come, they may not come. He just has to roll with the punches.
Mike, you always displayed, particularly later in your career, in fact, incredible kind of old-school toughness. As a little guy, taking savage shots and dusting yourself off, picking yourself back up and going at it again until physically you couldn't anymore with some of those shots you were taking,
Right.
in given games and seasons. How do you feel having that mentality, watching Cam, a big, strong guy with the increased quarterback protection year in and year out we see, complaining about getting hit too much? Does that at all rub you the wrong way?
Well, I kind of look at it as, I was a guy who was 6 feet, 212 pounds, didn't really do much complaining. I did more complaining to my coaches and maybe to Roger at times to try to get calls than I did to the referees, because I know in the heat of the moment, nobody really cares. I mean, you're going to get those calls, whether they make a difference in the game or not, who knows? But you have to just go out there and continue to just stay focused on the task at hand. I was the guy who just laid it all out on the line. The referees were secondary to me, not primary. I didn't care whether I got a call or not. Sometimes I did if I felt like it was too flagrant. Then I would maybe hint something to the ref. But other than that, you have to just go out and play. You're not going to win a game getting 15-yard penalties. Maybe, maybe not. But for the most part, no. So, yeah, I just tried to lay it all out on the line, and I think we all seen that on a consistent basis for me. And I think Cam should do the same thing. But I really wish that I was 6'5", 245 pounds, because my game would have been a different dynamic.
Well, having said all of that, Mike, being gone for a couple of seasons before you ultimately came back, you balled for a couple of years for the Philadelphia Eagles. I want you to talk about what happened to your career and why you're not playing now, because we see a lot of quarterbacks that are clearly mediocre. And when you look at the way the game has evolved and how the running quarterback can still do damage in today's game, you got a lot of folks out there still salivating about the Michael Vick of old, wishing that guy could still be out there doing the kind of things that he's capable of doing. Why is Michael Vick not playing in the NFL today? What would you say happened to your career in the latter part of it?
You know what, I can honestly say I really don't know what happened. I felt like I was doing the best that I could, being the best teammate, being the consummate teammate that I can be. I know in Pittsburgh I came in late. I came in August, and I felt like I can get a grasp of the offense, and being a veteran and the player with the experience that I had, I felt like I can come in and run the show if deemed necessary. I felt like when I was in New York, I did a pretty good job when I stepped in. I wasn't as sharp as I wanted to be, but that just comes with, getting reps. And I wasn't getting reps. I was, in the back at practice, standing behind, Gino, not getting the opportunity to get the reps that I needed to be the best that I can be. Now, I knew that I could get the job done. It's all about, your confidence and how you feel and your preparation. And I think the moral of the story is that in my heart of hearts, I'm a full-time starter. I'm not a backup. I was so used to that regimen for 13 years, being a starter, being the face of a franchise, and it was tough for me to handle. And it's similar to the situation that I think Tony Romo is going through, not what he's about to go through, because I think the future is bright for him. But, being in a desolate place where you feel as if, everything is crashing down, your career is coming to an end, you start to panic and you start to press, and that's natural for a football player to be faced with those situations. And I kind of accepted it. I really still don't understand why I'm not playing, but I'm getting used to not playing, so that's not a good thing.
Mike, you brought up Tony Romo. I want to bring up another quarterback we've been debating on this show, Tom Brady, who's played at an all-universe level this year on a per-game basis, but has missed 4 games, is now 4-1 when the second and third string quarterbacks were a combined 3-1 without him. And yet he's being mentioned by many as a potential MVP candidate, including by Stephen A. Smith and Molly.
Yes.
I say you can't miss a quarter of your season's games and be an MVP. What do you say?
Educate him, Mike. Educate him.
Max, well, give me a second, Stephen, because to a certain degree, I agree with what Max is saying.
Drop the mic. I just dropped the mic on you, Stephen A.
He served the suspension, 4 games. Yes, he's came back and he's played incredible, and he's looked like the Tom Brady of old, the Tom Brady that we're used to seeing. Has he done some good things? Yes. Are there other players out in the NFL that's doing great things? Yes. Is Tom Brady still a great player? We all agree. I think we would all agree, yes. But to only play 4 games and be considered, 4 or 5 games and miss 4 games and be considered an MVP candidate, I think it's kind of far-fetched right now when you have guys like Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson playing at a very high level right now. I think it can't be overlooked. And then you also have Ezekiel Elliott who's playing at a high level.
Don't mince words. Go ahead. Tell Stephen A. Smith, Max is right and you're wrong. Go ahead. It's okay. It feels good. You'll like it.
Michael Vick, that is
Max
just
is right.
blasphemous.
Stephen, you're wrong.
Stephen A. How dare you interrupt that man?
Michael Vick, that's just blasphemous. I can't believe you're a traitor. I can't believe that you just
Max
said
is right. Stephen, you're wrong.
He just messing with me, Max. He's just messing with me. He's just messing with me.
Great every time.
Check this out. Check this out, Michael Vick.
Hey,
So
Stephen,
if
you lost that one, Stephen. You lost that one.
Let me ask you this, Mike. So if Tom Brady rolls out and drops 32 touchdowns, only throws about 3 or 4 interceptions, goes 11-1 in 12 games, you trying to tell me just because he missed 4 games, he can't be MVP? That's what you're saying?
Look, I think because he was faced with so much adversity in the beginning of the year that it can be taken into consideration of him being the MVP. Now, I do stand on that. But we have to account for the 4 games. Now, if you got a guy like Dak Prescott who plays 16 games and has a full body of work and they still make the playoffs, then how can you debate that? So
what if Tom Brady's
it's going to be interesting to see. Look, I'm pulling for Tom.
Hey, by the way, Stephen A., he's already got a loss, and there's the second.
Then you have to take it into consideration.
I cannot believe what Michael Vick is saying right now. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. Okay.
I gotta keep it real. I gotta keep it real in the football world.
All right. You keeping it real with your Cubs hat on, even though you're from Virginia, not Chicago. It's all right.
Absolutely. I jumped on the bandwagon. Like everybody else. I got a new team, the Chicago Cubs. We made history this year.
I got you. What is your thought about your old team, the Atlanta Falcons, and what you've been seeing from Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and the crew since they are leading the NFC South? What's been your thoughts about that?
I think they're playing some pretty good football. Now, it's not the most consistent. I think on offense, they're doing a great job. It seems like the offense is moving fluently. There's no problems there. I think, Kyle Shanahan has done a great job with Matt Ryan, and I think Matt Ryan is very comfortable in what they're doing. Julio Jones looks phenomenal. He can be another MVP candidate, hands down, but we know receivers don't win the MVP. But the defense has to play better, and it's very inconsistent. It's kind of hard for me to watch. Last week, watching Atlanta and Philly was very difficult to watch. I had to root for somebody, so I just stayed neutral. But I think as the season goes on, down the stretch when it's extremely important to be at your best, I think this is a team that really has to focus on getting better on the defensive side of the ball, because we all know defense wins championships. The offense is just complementary, and that's the only way they're going to get it done. So I'm rooting for them. I'm pulling, for those guys to put it all together, and I think they will.
Mike, you mentioned that Matt Ryan looks comfortable with, what has to do, and he's making some throws that very few guys can make and all that. But considering everyone's situation under center this year in the NFL, who is the best quarterback in football in 2016?
Man, it's tough to say who's the best. It's a lot of good ones out there, man. And I know David Carr's playing well. I know, like I said, Dak Prescott is playing extremely well. Tom Brady looks like a spitting image of himself week in and week out.
Man, you dancing more than Max.
I would hate to say this.
Give it to me.
And I got to be real. Listen, Steve, I got to be candid. And I'm going to be honest, man. Right now, people might get offended, but as I watch the whole body of work, like I said, Dak Prescott, to me, is the most consistent quarterback right now.
How about
I would say Tom Brady if I would have seen his first 4 games. How about those Cowboys, Molly? They look good. I mean, you can't take nothing away from them. I know a lot of Cowboys fans out here.
Mike, they in our ear. They telling us you got to go. They telling us you got to go. Mike, they telling us you got to go. They telling us you got to. I cannot believe you
for keeping it real. Don't make me leave for keeping it real. I'm here for 30 minutes.
Mike, we so appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us. But next time, can you not big time us? Can you be here in studio and not upgrade for that sunshine?
Next time I will be there. We'll coordinate it. We'll set it up.
All right. We appreciate you.
I don't know about that.
Thanks for having me.
When we come back.
Good to see you, bro.
Michael Jordan praises Westbrook, but is he giving a backdoor insult to KD? We get into it.
I'm not saying.
Was inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. Congrats to him. The legend Michael Jordan presented him at the induction and praised Russell for his loyalty to the city. Take a listen.
I think another thing that you guys should be proud about is the sense of loyalty that this kid has shown to the state of Oklahoma. I'm not here to try to bash anyone that's not here. Everybody has a choice. I'm not saying that you don't have a choice. Everybody has a choice. And when I saw that he chose to stay here in Oklahoma, I was so proud, and as Clay know and as Russ know, I texted him to show a sense of respect.
1 year ago, the Thunder organization gathered in Tulsa to induct Durant into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, and Westbrook was his presenter. Stephen A., were Jordan's comments a little bit of a shot at Durant?
A little bit, no question about it. You know, whether intended or not, Jordan's not going to care about that. He's not trying to get at somebody like that on purpose, but he is going to say what he feels, because Jordan is as real as they come. And there's a level of respect that gets elevated when you see Russell Westbrook making the decision that he made to stay on board, to be committed, to understand that the loss of Kevin Durant is devastating, but he's still going to stay there and fight and fight and fight. Old school cats like Jordan, like Magic, like Isaiah and others respect that, even though they all recognize the fact that free agency back in their day wasn't what it is today. They just could not conceive of joining the other as opposed to fighting against one another. And just to put things in its proper perspective, Max, understand something here. Charles Oakley, for example, is a brother who would take a bullet for Michael Jordan. Patrick Ewing is as tight and as much of a brother to Michael Jordan as almost anybody. Michael Jordan loves rubbing in Patrick Ewing's face and others how he beat them. And he denied them opportunities to win a championship. That's the kind of guy Michael Jordan is. And so when you look at somebody like Russell Westbrook, who is clearly the most ruthless competitor in basketball as far as I'm concerned, he will cut your heart right out of your chest if he could to beat you. Knowing that kind of talent that he is, and considering the commercial that they made months ago, some run, some make runways. There's no other way to interpret this. We understand what it is. I just think that, and you got to remember, the Jordan brand is a part of the Nike brand, and Kevin Durant is represented by Nike, so nobody wants to be but so flagrant with it, but they don't care that much either about stating where they stand and what position they support. Russell Westbrook's that way. Michael Jordan's that way. They know they don't need to speak on it. They know they could leave it for interpretation because they know it's obvious what everybody will interpret it to be.
Russell Westbrook's my favorite player, and he's a lot of people's favorite player precisely because he's a flawed player. You know, the over-aggression in him, he's overly aggressive at times, is amazing to watch, because how often in life do you get to see someone achieve at just about the highest level in the world just unbridled aggression? That's what's driving them. It's something to see. It's something to behold. And so Kevin Durant, unfortunately, is in this situation because we talk about this. Why isn't Kevin Durant greater than Larry Bird? He should be. He's taller, he's faster, better defender, better scorer, really. But no one's taken Durant over Bird, because Bird had that at this position. Obviously, LeBron's the greatest small forward who ever lived. I'm talking about who's second. Because Bird was alpha. And that's not KD. KD's personality seems to be the kind of guy, not like Jordan, not like Bird, not like Magic, the kind of guy who wants to fit in and be part of a team. Just naturally, that's what he wants to be, seems to me. And I find that interesting. I'd like to live in a world where there can be an exception to the rule. Where, hey, look at that. Kevin Durant won championships, and he didn't do it the way everyone else did it. But it's his misfortune that he is going to be compared and contrasted with a guy who is emblematic more than anyone else of the Jordan, Kobe, Bird kind of ruthless mentality, which is Westbrook. It's not like KD was just on a team with another great competitor who's also a great player. He's on a team with the competitor, with the force of nature, Russell Westbrook, with the guy whose personality makes him somehow more than the sum of his parts. And that's who he's going to be compared to. So Jordan doesn't even have to be aiming at KD, nor does anyone else. They just need to be telling the truth about Russell Westbrook. Because when you tell the truth about Westbrook, it feels like a shot at KD. How can it not? It's just KD's misfortune that he was on that guy's team and that's the dynamic. And from now on till the end of time, when people talk about Westbrook and his qualities that we most admire, in this case, loyalty to the franchise, ruthless aggression, ultimate competitor, alpha personality, gonna sound like you're taking a shot at KD. How else can it sound?
Yeah, it sounds that way, but do you think that's what Jordan was doing?
No, I think he's just trying to compliment Westbrook. That's my point. Gad, right now, talk about Westbrook, Stephen A. Smith, and make it not sound like you're taking a shot at KD. It's hard. Right? I mean, it's hard.
It's definitely hard, but we also have to take into consideration who we're talking about here when we talk about Michael Jordan. The ultra competitor, the ultra assassin, somebody that comes at you and is unapologetic about it, but never spoke about it. When he had wars with the New York Knicks and Jeff Van Gundy particularly, he never said anything. He balked at Jeff Van Gundy. You knew that, but he never said anything. When he went at Clyde Drexler and literally destroyed Clyde Drexler, okay, whether it be in the NBA Finals or in practice during the Olympics or whatever the case may be. He never spoke against Clyde Drexler. He just exercised it, okay? When he went up against the Detroit Pistons and the bad boys and what they were trying to do to him and what have you, he left the complaining to other individuals. He went out there and tried to take them out, but at the same time, he didn't speak against them. When Isaiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons walked off the court prematurely, which was a black mark against that franchise, and it was much more into that meets the eye, and everybody should go back and watch the 30 for 30 that was done on the Bad Boy Pistons, because that explains a lot. Nevertheless, what did Jordan say after that? Jordan didn't have much to say. Jordan is notorious for saying a lot by not saying much. And that's what it was. It's one thing for Russell Westbrook to be inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. It's another thing for MJ to introduce him. And not only to introduce him, and he should, by the way, because Russell Westbrook is like a signature brand for the Jordan brand with what he brings to the table, but to go up there and to introduce him and to say, I'm not here to knock anybody. Yeah, Jordan's not necessarily trying to knock him per se, but at the same time, we are talking about Jordan, who has a profound level of respect, exponentially higher for Russell Westbrook and his actions than Kevin Durant and his actions. It's unavoidable.
Fair enough. Does not get much bigger than his airness. But there's no question as to the fact that shots will be fired Saturday night when Max is working his second gig. Andre Ward has a huge fight with Sergey Kovalev this weekend. So can Ward replace Floyd Mayweather and carry the torch for boxing? Find out next.
Hi,
Light heavyweight champion Sergey Kovalev will defend his title against former super middleweight titleist Andre Ward in a battle of undefeated fighters. Here's a look at how they match up. Kovalev has the edge when it comes to knockouts, 26-15, but outside of that, they appear to be pretty evenly matched. No better person to ask than Max Kellerman. Max, if Ward wins, will he take over boxing from Floyd Mayweather?
In a competitive sense, yes. I mean, this is a great matchup. It's evenly matched. It's the best matchup you can make in boxing, period. This is the best one. Kovalev is a monster. No one wants to fight this guy. He's knocking everyone out, and Andre Ward is rising in weight to fight him. Andre Ward hasn't lost a fight, amateur or pro, since he was 12 or 13 years old. He won an Olympic gold medal, and that's significant because it's tournament style in the amateurs. You can't pick and choose your opponents, as many do in the pros. You got to face whoever's left standing in the winner's circle. He beat all of them without a loss from the time he was a preteen. Then he turns pro, and it just so happens there's a Super 6 tournament in the middleweight division where, once again, you can't pick and choose. You got to fight whoever's in the winner's circle, and he wins that without a loss. And now, looking for the biggest, baddest dude he can find, he gets Kovalev. Again, a guy no one wants to fight. He's knocking everyone out. So if Ward beats Kovalev, I think he's cemented his status as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, which was Floyd Mayweather's until not long ago. The question, though, is can he translate that to business? Because Floyd, people forget now, earlier in his career, Stephen, everyone knew he was this great fighter, but he was considered boring, not box office, etc. And later on in his 30s, he proved everyone wrong and became the richest fighter ever. Andre Ward does not have the kind of flamboyant personality Floyd has, and he's also been accused at times of being boring or ruthlessly efficient and effective. So he can take over from Floyd in terms of the pound-for-pound hierarchy. The question is, can he ever generate the business? Maybe not even that Floyd generated, but more business than the other fighters. And the jury's out on that. Those who think it can't happen, I would slow down. Again, consider Floyd was once upon a time considered not big box office. So Andre Ward, even at 32, should he win this fight, could still potentially go on to be involved in big money fights.
My concern about Andre Ward, first of all, I'm scared to death for him. Let me just put it right out there. I'm picking Ward to win this fight by decision. I don't need to hear your prediction, Max, because you're calling a damn fight, okay? I don't want somebody to be ready to punch my partner in the face because he picked against him. Nobody needs to know who you're picking. I'm telling you who I'm picking. I'm picking Ward to win this by decision because I believe in him. I believe in his boxing skills. I believe in his ring savvy. He's got heart. And not only that, I got love for the brother. I don't want to see him get knocked out. And I'm scared to death that Sergey Kovalev is going to knock somebody out like Ward. That, to me, is the only way Kovalev can win this fight. I do not believe he can outbox Andre Ward. I don't believe that will happen. But I do believe anybody can get punched. Okay, anybody can get caught, and your body can quiver, and it could be lights out. I do not wish that on my man Andre Ward. I got love for him. I'm hoping he will win this fight, but I believe from a skilled boxing perspective, he was always number 2 behind Floyd before he became inactive due to the legal battles with his promoters. Having said that, to answer your question directly, here's where it comes down to. The reason why I don't believe that he can take over boxing is because there's no one out there. Adonis Stevenson, I don't know where the hell he's been hiding. He should have been the one fighting Kovalev. It seems like that's not something he wanted to do. I don't know that for sure, but these are what the folks in boxing are saying. You can answer that in a second, Max. Ward is in there. To me, the only way Ward can take over boxing is to have big fights. And I don't see a mega big fight out there at the light heavyweight division.
Yep.
I
Two
think
things. You're right. Not in light heavyweight.
Or Canelo having to move up.
This has always been Ward's problem. He gets criticized ridiculously for nonsense. So he has a boring style because it's one-sided, because he's always beating everybody by a lot. Or else, oh, there are no interesting opponents. Because instead of ducking opponents for years and years, he goes to the biggest, baddest dude and beats them. And then, no good deed goes unpunished. Well, who's left? You're right, at light heavyweight, there may not be huge money fights. But a fight with Triple G eventually at whatever weight will be an enormous fight. And I'll tell you something else that Andre Ward has said to me, Stephen A. Heavyweight wouldn't be out of the picture for him out of the question for him if it was the right size fighter against the right guy, if the circumstances were right. Ward is going to have to be creative. But as you say,
I don't want him in the heavyweight.
Kovalev is a whole lotta. You can't look past Kovalev because this is a 50-50 kind of fight. It's that good a matchup, folks. This is the best one that can be made at boxing at the moment.
Kovalev can put anybody to sleep in the light heavyweight division or lower. He's somebody that could potentially move up to heavyweight one day if he's successful in a fight of this magnitude because he has the power. Whereas with Andre Ward, I question his power at the light heavyweight division despite the knockout of Chad Dawson. Having said that, if he moved down and Triple G and Canelo, those kind of dudes, moved up between 165 and 168.
Yep.
That's how he could take over boxing.
Real
not
quick.
staying in the light heavyweight division.
Real quick, you know what Floyd Mayweather said about this fight publicly? He thinks that, hey, you shouldn't have gone up to fight Kovalev. That's people trying to get you bumped off. Why move up to fight Kovalev? You should have stayed put and fought Triple G. And Ward said, he admitted, maybe Floyd's right. We're going to have to wait and see what happens in this fight. It's that tough a fight.
I'll be paying the $69.99 for that, and of course to see Max Kellerman. Can't wait for that one. And speaking of box office, Rob Gronkowski, he took a huge hit from Earl Thomas in a loss last week, and it'll probably keep him out at least one game. Should Pats fans be worried? Quick hits next.
I think it's absolutely preposterous for someone like Conor McGregor to think they can hop in the ring with Floyd Money Mayweather and get a W. I've seen tough guys at your local Dave and Buster's that'll put a whooping on Conor McGregor.
Even you know in a boxing fight, you're not even going to last 5 rounds. You'll be sucking for it. Everybody's going to want to see Floyd lose. There's going to be a lot of disappointed people walking around here.
Now, Mayweather can play the media and say, I'm an elephant, I don't see the ants. But he definitely hears them, and he knows the sound of money, ching ching.
Good luck. You can't hit what you can't see. Mayweather's too fast. You want them to fight? Give them a price they can't refuse. $1 billion purse.
It's all about the ladies for me, gentlemen.
I kind of liked it. She had a little sassiness.
She had a little
sassiness to her
liked
game.
it.
I kind of liked her.
She brought
the
it.
other fellas they were all right, but she was good.
All right, let's get into it. Quick hits, gentlemen. We start with New England. Fans have a little cause for concern this week as star tight end Rob Gronkowski missed his 3rd straight practice today. What impact will Gronk's injury have on the Pats' Max?
Huge. If I was a Pats fan, I'd be going crazy right now. When Gronk is Gronk, they're the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. When he's compromised, suddenly they're beatable. Even like in the Super Bowl with the jump ball that Tom Brady threw, and he couldn't get it against the Giants. Without Gronk, they're just a nice playoff team. With him, they're the odds-on favorite. I'd be petrified anytime I heard injury reports on Gronkowski.
That's fair in the grand scheme of things, but not this week because they're going up against Chip Kelly's 49ers. End of discussion.
We got the music back, Stephen A. Earlier this week, Odell Beckham Jr. said the Giants, yes, work it, have the Super Bowl defense. But yesterday, his teammate Jason Pierre-Paul wants him to dial back the championship talk as they don't need a new hype. Does JPP have a point?
Yes, he does. Because they're the Giants and they've missed the playoffs 6 of the last 7 years. I mean, they got to get it together. And just because you're having a good run right now, let's put things in perspective. You need to continue to produce. Let's make the playoffs. Crawl before you walk, Odell Beckham Jr. Crawl before you walk.
Super Bowl, Odell, 1 game at a time. That'll take care of itself. JPP's absolutely right.
It's all about the Friday jams right now. Big matchup in the AFC South on Sunday between the Titans and the Colts. Which quarterback would you rather have, Max Kellerman, Mariota, or Luck?
Mariota's a fantastic quarterback. I'd rather have Andrew Luck than anyone. The answer is Luck.
I would go with Marcus Mariota for this particular game because I don't like the way the Colts have been taking care of Andrew Luck. We're not just thinking about Andrew Luck's talent. We're thinking about his situation. Mariota appears to be in a better situation, at least for the moment.
Stephen A., the #1 overall pick in this year's draft, Jared Goff, will make his NFL debut this week against the Dolphins. What do you expect?
Nothing. He plays for Jeff Fisher, going up against the Miami Dolphins, who won 4 in a row. Anything is going to succeed Case Keenum, who isn't that great, and we all know it. They're the worst offense in football, but that's not Jared Goff's fault. I think he's a sacrificial lamb this week. I hope otherwise, but I suspect he is.
I mean, listen, they have no offense. So Goff doesn't have to be great, and I'm not expecting anything from him either, or else he would have started already. But if he's this much better than Case Keenum with some of these low-scoring games these guys have been involved in, he'll look really good because they'd have a chance to win some of these games. Not expecting it, but he doesn't have to do much to look good next to Keenum.
Gentlemen, I know you're tough critics. We talked about Goff making his debut. We had a little trial run today on ESPN. How'd we do? What do you think?
Me personally, Molly, I think we did absolutely wonderful. You led the way. You led the way. Max, black suit, nice shirt, questioning the tie. But that's...
No one wants to fight this guy. He's knocking everyone out, and Andre Ward is rising in weight to fight him. Andre Ward hasn't lost a fight, amateur or pro, since he was 12 or 13 years old. He won an Olympic gold medal, and that's significant because it's tournament style in the amateurs. You can't pick and choose your opponents, as many do in the pros. You got to face whoever's left standing in the winner's circle. He beat all of them without a loss from the time he was a preteen. Then he turns pro, and it just so happens there's a Super 6 tournament in the middleweight division where, once again, you can't pick and choose. You got to fight whoever's in the winner's circle, and he wins that without a loss. And now, looking for the biggest, baddest dude he can find, he gets Kovalev. Again, a guy no one wants to fight. He's knocking everyone out. So if Ward beats Kovalev, I think he cemented his status as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, which was Floyd Mayweather's until not long ago. The question, though, is can he translate that to business? Because Floyd, people forget now, earlier in his career, Stephen, everyone knew he was this great fighter, but he was considered boring, not box office, etc. And later on in his 30s, he proved everyone wrong and became the richest fighter ever. Andre Ward does not have the kind of flamboyant personality Floyd has, and he's also been accused at times of being boring or ruthlessly efficient and effective. So he can take over from Floyd in terms of the pound-for-pound hierarchy. The question is, can he ever generate the business? Maybe not even that Floyd generated, but more business than the other fighters. And the jury's out on that. Those who think it can't happen, I would slow down. Again, consider Floyd was once upon a time considered not big box office. So Andre Ward, even at 32, should he win this fight, could still potentially go on to be involved in big money fights.
My concern about Andre Ward, first of all, I'm scared to death for him. Let me just put it right out there. I'm picking Ward to win this fight by decision. I don't need to hear your prediction, Max, because you're calling a damn fight, okay? I don't want somebody to be ready to punch my partner in the face because he picked against him. Nobody needs to know who you're picking. I'm telling you who I'm picking. I'm picking Ward to win this by decision because I believe in him. I believe in his boxing skills. I believe in his ring savvy. He's got heart. And not only that, I got love for the brother. I don't want to see him get knocked out. And I'm scared to death that Sergey Kovalev is going to knock somebody out like Ward. That, to me, is the only way Kovalev can win this fight. I do not believe he can outbox Andre Ward. I don't believe that will happen. But I do believe anybody can get punched. Okay, anybody can get caught, and your body can quiver, and it could be lights out. I do not wish that on my man Andre Ward. I got love for him. I'm hoping he will win this fight, but I believe from a skilled boxing perspective, he was always number 2 behind Floyd before he became inactive due to the legal battles with his promoters. Having said that, to answer your question directly, here's where it comes down to. The reason why I don't believe that he can take over boxing is because there's no one out there. Adonis Stevenson, I don't know where the hell he's been hiding. He should have been the one fighting Kovalev. It seems like that's not something he wanted to do. I don't know that for sure, but these are what the folks in boxing are saying. You can answer that in a second, Max. Ward is in there. To me, the only way Ward can take over boxing is to have big fights. And I don't see a mega big fight out there at the light heavyweight division. I
Two
think
things. You're right. Not in light heavyweight.
Or Canelo having to move up.
This has always been Ward's problem. He gets criticized ridiculously for nonsense. So he has a boring style because it's one-sided, because he's always beating everybody by a lot. Or else, oh, there are no interesting opponents. Because instead of ducking opponents for years and years, he goes to the biggest, baddest dude and beats them. And then, no good deed goes unpunished. Well, who's left? You're right, at light heavyweight, there may not be huge money fights. But a fight with Triple G eventually at whatever weight will be an enormous fight. And I'll tell you something else that Andre Ward has said to me, Stephen A. Heavyweight wouldn't be out of the picture for him out of the question for him if it was the right size fighter against the right guy, if the circumstances were right. Ward is going to have to be creative. But as you say,
I don't want him in the heavyweight.
Kovalev is a whole lotta. You can't look past Kovalev because this is a 50-50 kind of fight. It's that good a matchup, folks. This is the best one that can be made at boxing at the moment.
Kovalev can put anybody to sleep in the light heavyweight division or lower. He's somebody that could potentially move up to heavyweight one day if he's successful in a fight of this magnitude because he has the power. Whereas with Andre Ward, I question his power at the light heavyweight division despite the knockout of Chad Dawson. Having said that, if he moved down and Triple G and Canelo, those kind of dudes, moved up between 165 and 168.
Yep.
That's how he could take over boxing.
Real quick.
Not staying in the light heavyweight division.
Real quick, you know what Floyd Mayweather said about this fight publicly? He thinks that, hey, you shouldn't have gone up to fight Kovalev. That's people trying to get you bumped off. Why move up to fight Kovalev? You should have stayed put and fought Triple G. And Ward said, he admitted, maybe Floyd's right. We're going to have to wait and see what happens in this fight. It's that tough a fight.
I'll be paying the $69.99 for that, and of course to see Max Kellerman. Can't wait for that one. And speaking of box office, Rob Gronkowski, he took a huge hit from Earl Thomas in a loss last week, and it'll probably keep him out at least one game. Should Pats fans be worried? Quick hits next.
I think it's absolutely preposterous for someone like Conor McGregor to think they can hop in the ring with Floyd Money Mayweather and get a W. I've seen tough guys at your local Dave and Buster's that'll put a whooping on Conor McGregor.
Even you know in a boxing fight, you're not even going to last 5 rounds. You'll be sucking for it. Everybody's going to want to see Floyd lose. There's going to be a lot of disappointed people walking around here.
Now, Mayweather can play the media and say, I'm an elephant, I don't see the ants. But he definitely hears them, and he knows the sound of money, ching ching.
Good luck. You can't hit what you can't see. Mayweather's too fast. You want them to fight? Give them a price they can't refuse. $1 billion purse.
It's all about the ladies for me, gentlemen.
I kind of liked it. She had a little sassiness.
She had a little
sassiness to her
liked
game.
it.
I kind of liked her.
She brought
the
it.
other fellas they were all right, but she was good.
All right, let's get into it. Quick hits, gentlemen. We start with New England. Fans have a little cause for concern this week as star tight end Rob Gronkowski missed his 3rd straight practice today. What impact will Gronk's injury have on the Pats, Max?
Huge. If I was a Pats fan, I'd be going crazy right now. When Gronk is Gronk, they're the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. When he's compromised, suddenly they're beatable. Even like in the Super Bowl with the jump ball that Tom Brady threw, and he couldn't get it against the Giants. Without Gronk, they're just a nice playoff team. With him, they're the odds-on favorite. I'd be petrified anytime I heard injury reports on Gronkowski.
That's fair in the grand scheme of things, but not this week because they're going up against Chip Kelly's 49ers. End of discussion.
We got the music back, Stephen A. Earlier this week, Odell Beckham Jr. said the Giants, yes, work it, have the Super Bowl defense. But yesterday, his teammate Jason Pierre-Paul wants him to dial back the championship talk as they don't need a new hype. Does JPP have a point?
Yes, he does. Because they're the Giants and they've missed the playoffs 6 of the last 7 years. I mean, they got to get it together. And just because you're having a good run right now, let's put things in perspective. You need to continue to produce. Let's make the playoffs. Crawl before you walk, Odell Beckham Jr. Crawl before you walk.
Super Bowl, Odell, 1 game at a time. That'll take care of itself. JPP's absolutely right.
It's all about the Friday jams right now. Big matchup in the AFC South on Sunday between the Titans and the Colts. Which quarterback would you rather have, Max Kellerman, Mariota, or Luck?
Mariota's a fantastic quarterback. I'd rather have Andrew Luck than anyone. The answer is Luck.
I would go with Marcus Mariota for this particular game because I don't like the way the Colts have been taking care of Andrew Luck. We're not just thinking about Andrew Luck's talent. We're thinking about his situation. Mariota appears to be in a better situation, at least for the moment.
Stephen A., the #1 overall pick in this year's draft, Jared Goff, will make his NFL debut this week against the Dolphins. What do you expect?
Nothing. He plays for Jeff Fisher, going up against the Miami Dolphins, who won 4 in a row. Anything is going to succeed Case Keenum, who isn't that great, and we all know it. They're the worst offense in football, but that's not Jared Goff's fault. I think he's a sacrificial lamb this week. I hope otherwise, but I suspect he is.
I mean, listen, they have no offense. So Goff doesn't have to be great, and I'm not expecting anything from him either, or else he would have started already. But if he's this much better than Case Keenum with some of these low-scoring games these guys have been involved in, he'll look really good because they'd have a chance to win some of these games. Not expecting it, but he doesn't have to do much to look good next to Keenum.
Gentlemen, I know you're tough critics. We talked about Goff making his debut. We had a little trial run today on ESPN. How'd we do? What do you think?
Me personally, Molly, I think we did absolutely wonderful. You led the way. You led the way. Max, black suit, nice shirt, questioning the tie, but that's me.
From where I'm sitting, it went great. I win all the arguments, so, it feels good to me. You have to ask Stephen A. what it feels like, though.
All right, guys, thank